I'm back because I really want you guys to hear what send Misty a request. Okay, yes. Okay, I'm gonna send Misty a request and see if that works. Yes, Misty. And let's see. Let's see if it's Instagram or if it's just
No.
Yay! I'm super
See,
excited.
Misty's gonna be taking all the credit because her phone worked and mine didn't.
Oh man. Well, you know what? You could, if you want, because we want the people who follow you to know you're going live. If you want, you can log out of Misty's account on her phone and log into yours. Let's see if it's Instagram.
What did I do? Say that again.
You want to log out?
Wait a minute, I'm on here now. Oh no, that's a delay. Okay, I'm confused. Turn it off.
Yeah, turn it off.
Her phone worked and mine didn't.
Yeah, it's gonna be delayed and they'll hear it. Okay, perfect. So
Okay, can
now
you hear
it's
me?
up to, I can hear you very well. Now it's up to you. You can log out and log back
No,
into
I
your
don't.
account.
I don't want to try it.
Okay, perfect.
I think I can use her phone for me. I'm on my phone. My phone is. I don't know. I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
I'm
I'm
trying
so
to get
glad that it
this.
worked.
She's gonna tease me forever about my phone.
She probably will, but it's okay. That's what we
She
do
already
as
said
wives.
bootleg. She said bootleg.
Yay! Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to I Am Woman, the conversation. Let's talk. I am super excited that we were able to get Mr. Eric Outler, yay, to join us in the conversation. So, Mr. Outler, if you would just
Yes.
kind of introduce yourself to the people. Oh, he's sweating like a pastor, y'all. He's sweating like a
No,
pastor.
no, I'm not a pastor.
I
No,
said he's sweating like a pastor.
I'm sweating like I'm nervous. I don't know why.
You shouldn't be nervous. So
No, I'm not at all.
I want you
No.
to tell people, they know your name now because we've said it a bunch of times. So tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then the most important thing I always ask my guests is why you do it. Tell us why you do what you do.
Wow, that's a great thing. My name is Eric Outler, and my wife and I, we do a lot of marriage ministry, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
but I also do a lot of life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I do life, it's gonna sound cliche, but it's really not.
That's okay.
Um, it really changed my life, and it totally transformed my relationship with my daughter, based on some techniques that I was using from a life coach, and it really changed. And then I said, hey, I'm going to be certified in that. And then I went and got certified because I was already doing a lot of talking to people and that kind of stuff. But I wanted to transition more so where I wasn't just talking about what I thought, and I wanted some science behind what I was saying.
Right.
So I went and got certified and all that. That's we were a part of another ministry in 2013 when we were approached by one of the pastors, and they said he said we want you guys to lead a marriage small group, and I was like, bro, you don't want me to lead no small group. We just got arguing in the parking lot. I mean, you don't want me to lead no small group. So that very first group that we led was called, it was a curriculum by Jimmy Evans. His ministry is called Marriage Today. And that curriculum was called Marriage on the Rock.
Okay.
Which I really was turned off by because I was like, man, my marriage is not on no rocks. I don't need, but
marriage on the rock, not
yes,
on the rock.
once I got into it, right? See, you smarter than me. So once I got into it, I realized that's what they were saying. Right. Build your marriage on the rock. Mm-hmm. So we started doing that, and we started when all of these couples started coming, and then people that were coming to our small group started getting married, and then we had people showing up saying, well, we want to do this as part of our pre-marriage. I mean, we were not trying to be pastors. We were not trying to have a marriage ministry. All we were doing was just trying to help people and help them apply what we had learned as a result of doing this small group. So over the last, that's been 7 years now. Over the last 7 years, we have worked with literally hundreds of couples.
Wow.
Literally. So when I meet people and I talk to couples now and I say things, they think that I'm just talking because you know how I am. I'm real like natural and I just kind of flow with it.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know that what I'm telling them is really based on observing hundreds of I don't like the word customers, couples.
Yeah.
And seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work and just applying the things that we learn from the DVDs and we learn a lot from other people, things to do and things not to do.
Right. And I think that's a significant thing. People talk so much about Black marriage and how divorce is on the rise just across the board, whether you're Black, white, Hispanic, or whatever. Divorce just,
right.
How marriage no longer is a covenant. We know it's a covenant, but people don't treat it that way.
Right.
And you guys, those of you watching, we only get an hour, so we have to squeeze as much as we can into this hour. So excuse us if we don't go into all the details and save your marriage right now, okay? So,
right.
But, when we're talking about Black marriage and we're talking about what you and your wife did as far as helping couples and guiding them through, go give me 2 tips, 2 key things that are significantly important for young people right now that are planning to get married. And then 2 tips for young people that are married now that are starting to build in their marriage.
Well, my brain ain't as fast as yours, so give me the first 2 again.
Okay,
and then I can circle back to.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's the way men's brains work.
You had your right. That's why. Hey, I asked for help.
Okay.
I asked for help.
And you did ask for help. So 2 things for single people first. Single people may be in a relationship. I consider you single if you are not married. I don't care if you're in a relationship.
Okay.
So 2 tips for single people that would like to get married or planning to get married.
Mm-hmm. One of my scriptures that I go to all the time, and I keep circling back to this scripture over and over again, and as it relates to a myriad of subjects, and that is where the scripture says, God judges the heart and the intent of man. Mm-hmm. I would say to someone who's single, why are you with this person? Mm-hmm. What's your intent? Do you want to be married? Or do you want to live together? And I'm not judging anybody's situation because I don't do that. Right. But if you want to be married, then work toward marriage. If you want to stay single, then stay being single. So I think it depends on whatever a person's intent is, what their real intent is. If they really want to be together in that relationship, then they need to start working toward that. Right. You said 2 things, didn't you?
Yeah, 2 things for the single people, and then we're going to do 2 for the married people.
I'm a mama's boy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk about it.
And I say that to say, I've noticed that over the years, you know how you can have a business and a business has a certain demographic? Mm-hmm. Like it appeals to a certain group of people or something. Well, long story short, I learned early on that my demographic is Black females. Okay. And I said I'm a mama's boy because I think that may have had something to do with it. Okay. So I don't even know why I was saying that. But so my message is primarily to Black females when I talk. And I shouldn't say Black females, because as I mature and learn more, that I'm learning that these issues are not limited to Black. Right. They apply to anyone. So I would say that I said all of that to say to the black women, to the women who are watching this, look at and study the way your man treats the women already in his life. How does he treat his mom? How does he treat his daughter? How does he treat his aunts and sisters and his grandma?
Mm-hmm.
That will tell you everything you need to know.
It will.
If you just pay attention to how he treats them, you will learn. You don't have to ask him, do you love me? Do you respect women? Are you gonna put me first? You will already know what his psychology is and what level of reverence he has for women based on the women that he has in his life already.
Right.
So if someone doesn't have, if a man has a bad relationship with his mom and he curses his mom out, I mean, like, and I'm not judging anyone because I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what can you really expect?
If he's doing
As a
that to his
woman?
mom, then that's probably what he will do to you.
Right. And these examples that I'm giving you, I didn't just make that up.
Right.
This happened to one of my relatives.
Mm-hmm.
She was involved with a relationship with a guy who didn't have a good relationship with his mom. He was cursing his mom out.
Yeah. And I
So,
think what you're saying is very important. Many people may not know, but I am licensed. I am a licensed minister, and I have done marriage counseling, and I have married some couples. But what I have 5 pillars when I do my marriage counseling. I make sure that I go through these 5 pillars until I can't go through them anymore. Mental, physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual health.
yes,
You know, the
yes,
foundation. Can you high five your partner? Is what I
right,
say. Can you high five your partner with those things? And
right.
when I tell you, when you talk about the way someone treats the women in their life, it plays
Mm-hmm.
such a significant role in how you can move forward with any man.
Yes,
And I'm not talking about just the one you want to marry. Just any
right,
man, even if you're having daddy issues, how is your daddy
right,
treating his mother, or how was he treated by his
right,
mother? Like it filters into so many different areas. Okay, so we won't go
right.
too deep into that. But
So there was 2 things for single people, then
and
2
two
things for
things for the
married.
married folks. Tell the married folks something. Tell them something, Eric.
I'm going to tell you some again. I'm going to go back to another scripture because
That's
this
fine.
this scripture right here totally revolutionized. Is that a word? What's the word? Revol-
Revolutionize, or was
how I
revolutionary.
look, how I looked at marriage. It totally changed my view, and I got this from marriage. This teaching from Marriage on the Rock, and the scripture is submit to one another. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ.
Mm.
Meaning, in your marriage, do things, submit, sacrifice, put the time, effort, and energy into the marriage for the marriage, not for you, not for her, or vice versa. Do what's best for the marriage. And I'm not bragging, and I'm not certainly saying I'm 100% arrived yet. But
Right.
Misty will tell you that a lot of the things, I'm a lot different than the way I used to be. I wouldn't sacrifice nothing. If I didn't want to do it, just didn't do it.
I
But
understand.
now I've learned and matured, and based on, like I said, a lot of things that I've seen from other people, I can see how making those sacrifices for the marriage, not for her, not for Misty, not for Eric, but for the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
for this thing that we're building together.
Yeah.
You got to make deposits into that thing you're building together.
Well, Eric, you just said a curse word for some people.
What's that? Sacrifice?
Sacrifice. I mean,
Oh,
that's a curse word for some people. They're not able to sacrifice because sacrifice is too close to commit.
okay.
And that's a curse word for some people,
Well, I'm
being able to
sorry.
sacrifice.
Well, here's one thing that I know. I heard this years ago and it stuck with me. You got to give up to go up.
Ooh,
And
I like
that's
that, Eric.
That's
I
in
like
your
that.
business, in your marriage, your kids, your money, your church, your you don't you there is no place in life where you get before you give.
Right.
That only in the dictionaries does get come before give.
Right.
And if you're not willing to give something, you're not going to get something. It really doesn't matter how you feel about it. That's just the way that life is.
Right.
So people right now are struggling in their relationships and they don't understand what is it that they're not connecting on. They're not, well, they want everything their way. And they want what they want when they want it. You know,
Hmm.
like I've heard some of the older people say, y'all live in a microwave society. You know, you want everything quick,
Everything
fast, and in a hurry.
fast. Right. They want
Yeah.
everything fast.
But like I said, we've been doing this for over 7 years. I didn't learn this stuff overnight. Everything that I'm telling you now, I was the opposite. And Misty's standing right here. She'll tell you. I ain't no shame in my game. I'm telling you. And we might have an argument in a few minutes. I don't know. Depending on if I don't let her have her way. But but you're right though. For a lot of people, that is a bad word because sometimes people don't want to give because they can't see what they're gonna get for giving. But what I've
Hmm.
learned is sometimes you just have to give, and you, you can't see what you're getting as a result of the giving.
Right.
You
Eric,
just
that's
have to
so
give.
good. That's so
You just
good.
have to give. Even when you don't feel like it, just do it because it works both ways. When you do that, then your partner does the same thing.
Right. When you
And
become selfless, then
yeah,
so can your spouse.
yeah,
It is a place where when you give more, um, somebody gave me the analogy one time. If you love your spouse, you'll make their eggs the way they like them. And what they were
right,
talking about is how so many times we do things and we do things for people the way we desire for them to be done, expecting them to be grateful. But
right,
if they've already told you they only like egg whites and you always making them sunny side up,
right.
then
Is that
um,
what Cedric does?
no, he does a great job
I'm messing
because.
with you.
But the
I'm
funny part
messing with
is he ain't making no food, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm doing all the cooking, so I don't have to worry about him making my eggs. I make my
you.
own.
Yeah,
But you know what? For a
yeah,
long time, even when we first got married, I used to make his eggs the way I like mine. And he
yeah,
would always say, "Baby, I don't eat the yolk. I don't eat the yolk." But
yeah,
I was always just making the eggs yellow, yellow eggs.
yeah,
And finally, he was like, "Babe, I don't like this. Like
yeah,
I've said
yeah,
this many times, but you're not hearing me. I
yeah,
only eat with egg whites." And so it
yeah,
really stuck with me because there was literally something I was doing. I was making his eggs the way I like eggs, thinking he was supposed to be
yeah.
grateful. You should like this because
You
I'm
should be
cooking for you.
grateful. I'm
You should
cooking for you. Just
you should
eat
be
it.
grateful. I'm just eat it. But
Right,
that's like telling a homeless person, here, take this beef burger. But what if they're just because they're homeless don't mean they can't be vegan or vegetarian or
right,
whatever. We always they're
right,
ungrateful. They didn't want to take what I was giving them, but you didn't ask them what they wanted either.
right.
So we have to be mindful to ask people what they want and listen when they say what they want. Sometimes we
Yeah,
hear them, but they don't we don't
yeah,
say it. So now you talked about, I want to go back to something you said. You got into life coaching because of your daughter. And
yep,
there's been this thing going around about hashtag girl dad. I don't know if you've seen that where people just talking about
yeah,
being dads of girls.
yeah.
And, there's a lot going on in society right now. And my daughter was sitting the other day with my husband, and when the riots first started in Atlanta, and she saw everything that was going on the news, and she asked him, she's like, "Daddy, you know, what are they doing? Why are people so angry? What's happening?"
Hmm.
And he kind of was taken aback a little bit because he wasn't sure how to really respond to her. She's 6, and he just explained to her, well, some things happen that people don't like, and
Yeah.
so they're upset about it. And she asked him, she said, "So are they upset about the man that killed the black man, the white man that killed the black man?" And can you talk a little bit about the conversations that dads should be having with their daughters in this season? Because a lot of people right now are focused on our kings. They're focused on, what we should be saying to young men, what we should be saying to the man. But talk a little bit about what we should be saying to our young Black princesses that are growing up right now in this time and in this season.
Yeah. I think one of the things for females, period, if I may use that word, is a sense of security. That's really big on a woman's list. And I think just by having the conversation, now I had a conversation with my daughter, but my daughter's 35, so that's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But she was concerned because she said during her day-to-day activities, she's concerned about me, her husband, and her uncles, and her stepdad. And I didn't even think about that. It never was like, wow, I never knew that was. But again, it began with me and her talking about it and creating. I think one of the biggest things for a dad, period, of any age, with any age daughter, is creating an atmosphere where the daughter feels comfortable to talk about any issue, whether it be boys, money, sex, racism, whatever the issue. I think now I didn't always know this. I didn't always know this. When my daughter was younger, I was horrible because I was out in the great big world doing everything I thought I was big and bad enough to do. But we reconciled and we got back together, and it cost me. It really did cost me. But one thing that I learned is creating this atmosphere and that sense of security. And my daughter, her name is Brittany. Hopefully she's watching. Hey, Brittany. And she knows that she can call me. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what this is. I think that a lot of men may not know how important that is to the female spirit, her mind, her soul, and her spirit, to be able to go to daddy and talk about, I made a bad grade. There's this boy in my class that likes me. I don't like this person. I don't like Brussels sprouts, or whatever the scenario is, and especially something as sensitive as racism. The dad has to create the atmosphere to know that, hey, baby, I got you. Let's talk about it. That's one of the major things that I learned is when anyone, especially your daughter, comes to you and they tell you things, resist the urge to say, oh, you're crazy. Don't think that way. Oh, no, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. Oh, no. It's very important for them to be able to say everything that they're feeling.
Right.
Men lead with thoughts. Women lead with feelings and emotions.
That's right.
This is something I learned through training. But so it's important for the woman, daughter, to be able to talk about what she's feeling. I'm scared. I'm worried about that. And not have to be labeled, oh, that's crazy. Don't think that way. Oh, that's crazy. Don't feel that. No, you don't have to worry about feeling that. That's not going to, no. Let her talk. Let her get it out. Create the atmosphere and that bridge of communication where whatever the issue comes along, because there's going to be more issues beyond the white police killing a black man. There's going to be there's going to be somebody in the family that's maybe into drugs or something, or whatever.
There'll be something where she will want to speak up, and you have to have
Right.
created that environment where she's comfortable
Right.
opening her mouth, her
Yes.
heart, and her mind to you.
Right.
And that's even for adult females, I will say.
Yes, and she has to know that no matter what position she takes on it, that you're going to be there. Like, she could be, like my daughter said, Dad, this is what I'm thinking about, blah, blah, blah. Now, if I'm tripping, let me know. Because she called me the other day. She had an issue with a family member. And she was telling, now, and I happened to agree with her. I said, do we need to roll out and handle But I don't do that anymore.
You about to roll out, Eric?
But I will. You feel me?
For your daughter.
For your daughter,
sure. You will.
Oh,
that's what you do.
No question. But I think just having that, creating that environment is so important. And I think a lot of things, I'm 55. 10 years ago, I didn't know some of the things I'm saying.
Right.
And I think a lot of guys, they may be making parenting mistakes out of ignorance. And now I'm not using the word ignorant in a bad way.
No, the
I'm using
definition of
it as
ignorance means lacking
not
knowledge.
knowing.
Not knowing.
And they don't know how. And I made reference to earlier that I wasn't always a part of my daughter's life. Well, I wasn't really doing it on purpose. I just did not know that it was really that big of a deal. I really didn't know it. I mean, that may seem, to me, even saying it now sounds crazy. But back then, I really did. I was like, oh, okay, she's gonna, it's okay, it's okay. But
Mm-hmm.
from meeting, when I met Misty and I got married. Well, this was before we even got married. She said, you really need to, like, make amends with your daughter. You need to preach that. And I was like, man, that ain't no big deal. She ain't. And Misty was like, no, trust me. You really need to. And because of what Misty was telling me, I met with her, and it was very hard. It was very, very hard.
Because she
Because I had
probably
to
trying to figure out
leverage.
why you here now. You know.
Well, I didn't know, but it wasn't. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I really didn't know. I didn't know that it was that big of a deal for a daughter to have her dad there. I didn't know. But now that I do know, I try to, like, I work every week at me and her getting close. We talk about everything now, but it wasn't always that way.
Right.
And so I think that for a lot of guys that are watching this, it's really important. Even if you're having issues with your daughter's mother, still create that bond and that connection with her, so that when people say foul things about you, she knows who you really are.
Right.
Because people are gonna say foul things about you, but she'll know who you are. She'll know your character. She'll know who you really are as a person, and not people's versions of you. These are some of the things that I had to overcome. But it was my fault. I take full responsibility for it because I wasn't there to paint the picture that needed to be painted, as opposed to allowing somebody else to paint the picture for me.
Right.
So,
And that's a significant thing you're saying, Eric, because there are many times where people have something to say about the father that's not present. And you said something significant when you said, I didn't know that
right.
being there for her was important. Well, being there for her in a certain way was important. And I think that there are so many men, I can't even just say black men, because it's a fatherhood problem in general, but obviously in the black community, the lack of present fathers is significant for
Yes.
many reasons
Yes.
that we won't get into. But, you know, as a daughter of a father who was not present, I can say that every father is different, because my father played the role that he said it was my responsibility to create and maintain the relationship.
I
You
used to
know,
feel that way. I used
yeah,
to feel that way too.
yeah. He was like, if you want to talk to me, you can call me, you can reach out to me, you
Yeah.
can, if
Yeah.
you want to have a
Yeah.
relationship with me, then that's what you want. If you want the relationship with me, you call me. And I
Yeah.
was just like, wow, but I'm the child. And literally
Yeah.
at this time I was a child. How am I supposed to know when you're working, know when you're not working, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
he was the beginning of me not trusting, because he would tell me he was coming to get me and never would show up. He would say he was going to do something and would never do it. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit just about the importance of trust? Not even only just in the father-daughter relationship, but just in relationships with people in general. The importance of trust.
One of the one big mistake that I made is my daughter moved. She was moving, and there was a miscommunication. And she told me, and I thought she said something, and I didn't know, and blah, 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 blah. And then she moved, and she got these guys there. And I hate I allowed that to go down that way. Because, see, what a lot of times men don't realize how their actions impact other people. We sometimes get into this autonomous way of being where we're more insular and we're only focused on, I heard one preacher say, we're focused on the new Holy Trinity, me, myself, and I. And I don't want to be a part of that Trinity. But when she moved and I wasn't there, it really, to me, I didn't know how big of a deal that was. I just thought, oh, well, you got your stuff moved, you in your apartment, everything's fine.
Right. You moved everything there, you good? Okay, great.
So I thought.
Right.
But I didn't really realize how much that created a trust issue. Because in her, now she has proof. I called him, he ain't here. That's proof. And I'm not saying she holds that against me, because she doesn't. But, right. Well, at least I hope she does. You don't hold that against me, do you, Brittany? but
Brittany, if you hear, respond, baby. That would be good conversation.
but I later realized how important the trust is. And what I also realized was, if you're going to do it, say you're going to do it and do it. If you're not going to do it, say you're not going to do it and don't do it.
Yes.
Then you don't
talk to my husband about that all the
time.
The importance of being a man or woman of your word.
Yes.
That is very important. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's one thing that Misty really helped me with. Because I get excited. Cedric probably a little bit like me. We get excited and we just, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And Misty had to help me on this. She said, babe, I know you're excited. I know what you want to do. I know. Don't make no announcement. Just do it. But see, I didn't know that it creates a false expectation in people. And then people think, well, last time you said you was going to have a marriage conference and the tickets never went on sale. And then that story, even though your intentions were pure, that story becomes a part of who you are. So that's one of the key things about having in a relationship,
Eric.
Yes.
I want to read some of the comments that are coming here.
Okay, great.
Jenny, she's a friend of mine. She's talking about, it's definitely important to have a father in the picture. That yes, sometimes we do the best we know with what we have, but we must do the work to do more. I commend this man for taking a stand. When you were talking about how you knew that you weren't there, but you were trying to, reestablish that relationship. She also said, we lead by example, admit the wrongs and make the change. That speaks volumes.
Yes.
And the last thing she said, which is what I wanted to kind of address so you could talk about it, she said, and let's talk about the father that is in the home and still absent. They're in the home, but still absent. And that's the spouse too. So we could talk about the father and the spouse that's in the home, but still absent.
That's a great, I'm going to be 100% open because I want to help people and I'm not trying to talk about anybody. So I'll use myself as an example. The example that she just gave is how I grew up. My mom and dad were married for over 50-something years, and my dad was always in the house. I from the time I was born to the time I went to college, I lived with my mom and dad. My mom and I, we were like this. Like I said earlier, I was a mama's boy. My dad was physically there, but he wasn't there emotionally or psychologically or, if I made straight A's, then he would, he would say something about that. Or when I made the basketball team, or if I played baseball, or if I did something. And
Right.
if you're a parent and you're watching this, please never do that to your kids, because you're programming them that performance equals love. But that's a whole nother book within itself. But I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a situation where my dad was in the home, but he wasn't present. I couldn't talk to him about anything. I always connected better and talked better with women because my mom was who I went to. In all honesty, I had some uncles that were really close to me. I could talk to them, and some great uncles also. But my dad, he was doing his own thing. And again, like I said earlier, he didn't know. And I know for a fact that my dad loved me, and he would never purposely do anything to hurt me. But he didn't know that his absence was hurting me. He didn't know that. I mean,
Right.
but it took me reaching my 40s before I really realized that. But when I was younger, I wanted to talk to him about certain things. And later on, I realized, there was other things present that he was wrestling with that I didn't know about when I was, 10, 12, 14, 15. But as I got older, I realized he did the best he could. He did the
Right.
best he could. He just didn't know. Now we have the benefit of the internet, and we know how important psychology is. We know how important child rearing is, and we know, like he used a belt on me, right? Parents may or may not do that now because some psychologists say that's the worst thing you could ever do.
We
But
do.
I don't, yeah, if I had little kids now, I probably wouldn't use a belt on them.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. I would teach them other ways and techniques of how to
Right.
get things done. But,
Yeah.
but
We use a popping stick.
that
I
is
read a
the
book.
same. No stick. Throw that stick away.
No, I'm telling you, I read a book about parenting, and they talked about if and when you do have to discipline, that you have a specific thing, and that the hand is supposed to be loving, so you don't hit your children with your hands. That if you
Mm-hmm.
do have to discipline, that you identify something and you identify that with the child, so that they know that this
Mm-hmm.
is your disciplinary tool, and
Mm-hmm.
then you move forward. So my popping stick is for if you have just done something significantly wrong. Otherwise, we have conversations, talk about, they're young. You have to know that you're going to repeat yourself and say things over and over again. But we have a popping stick, but that's
Yeah.
for, it has to be something significant,
Yeah.
for us to use it.
Well, while we're on the subject, I want to commend you and Cedric both, because you guys both know the love and respect that I have for you. But I never told you how I really admire you guys as a couple and as a family. It's a beautiful thing. And I know it's not always easy, and I know it's very tough because I know you guys, personally, and I know it gets tough at times, but I wanted to lift you both up because it is not easy being a especially black couple in Georgia, in a Christian black couple with children. That is a tremendous, it is, I don't know if I could do that. I'm serious, because it is a lot of work and it's a lot of patience, and it takes a lot. And I commend the two of you for the work that you do. And I commend you. I was thinking about this earlier. I commend you for having these conversations, because it's through conversations like this that people learn and stretch and grow and develop, and they move beyond, they transition from one place to the next. And I commend you for just doing this, because it is really, it's much, these conversations are much, much needed.
Mm.
So
I appreciate you saying that. I think that I initially decided to do these conversations because the month of May was, is the representation of Mother's Day. And I wanted to talk to a lot of different Black women in the community who were doing things and had contributions that were significant to people in general. And I wanted people to hear what they had to say, because every last one of them had something to say. And then
mhm.
when May was about to be over, God just put it in my spirit that you can't have a one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have a one-sided conversation. You can't have it where women are the only ones sharing their perspective. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
really why I decided for the month of June, since it's a representation of Father's Day, to have
Oh,
something from the male perspective,
yeah.
and talk to our kings. You know, I talk with women about motherhood and the difficulties of that and what they're doing and how they're functioning and working throughout these seasons. But it's important that right now, especially in this season where Black men are not valued as much as they should be, that people have an opportunity to hear them speak clearly, to hear them
Yes.
share, and
Yes.
to hear how knowledgeable they are, and to hear the wisdom that they
Yes.
have,
Yeah.
because they don't always get a platform to be able to share.
Mm-hmm.
So people can see that they are just as intelligent, and that there are men worth following, that there are men that women desire to be submissive to, and that there are men that are great fathers. So I really wanted to have an opportunity to put that on display because people put so much negativity on
Yeah.
display. And so
Yes.
I wanted to create an environment where the positivity of the Black man was on display.
Yes.
So I
That's a
appreciate
beautiful
you,
thing.
just being willing to, be a part of the conversation, because I
Oh,
think that
anytime.
what
Anytime.
you
Anytime.
talked about is so significant, because the role
Mm-hmm.
of the father in the home, and the role of the husband as the head of a household, and the role of a man in the world is just so significant in this season. You talked about how women really look for a man to provide that security. And
Mm-hmm.
we are in a season where many Black women feel unsafe,
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Physically,
physically.
physically, emotionally. Go back to
Yes.
the five things.
Yes, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and spiritually.
Yes.
Mentally, they are driving themselves crazy every day,
Yes.
constantly turning over the survival of the Black man. Emotionally, they are saddened, they are depressed, they are struggling within themselves because they're
Yeah.
trying to figure out what it is that they need to do. Spiritually, all they can do is pray. They're in their war rooms. They're fighting for men, Black men themselves, their children. They're praying all the time. Financially, they're going through COVID-19. They may not be able to provide for their husbands. They may not
Yeah.
be able to provide for their
Yeah.
children. They may not be able to provide for themselves, but they're still figuring out a way to work it out. And physically, some of them are no longer able to
Yeah.
care for themselves. There's no self-care because everybody's in the house. They're tending to this person, tending to that person. That those five pillars, those things that are associated with the foundation of who you are and being able to build
Yeah.
yourself up, they're broken. They're broken right now. So,
Yeah.
just, the importance of that security you talked about, from being in the home and from the Black men, and not having to take on all of the responsibility and the weight of the world,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
significant.
big. It's very big. Yeah.
Significant. So we have 10 more minutes that we can talk. I don't know if anybody watching, Mr. Eric Outler is who I have as my guest right now, and he has talked about marriage. He's talked about single people. He's talked about married people. We talked about fatherhood, the concept of girl dad, what that looks like, the role of the father in the home. So if you have questions, you can put them into the bottom, or you can
Yes.
put them in the little question area, and we can get them. But Eric, is there anything you want to share, just period across the board, about right now, the season we're in, with what's going on across the world? Is there anything you want to share, period? Open platform for you to just say whatever you have on your heart.
Well, when we first talked about this, I started thinking about the woman who's had the most impact on my life. And the biggest impact on my life was my mom. But there have been other women who have impacted my life also. But my mom was like, she was just always there. I could count on her. I I remember one time I was a teenager, right? And my mom was getting dressed to go to this club, right? And my dad, I don't know where my dad, he wasn't home, or he wasn't going to this club with her. My mom asked me, could she go to the club? And she asked me what time does she need to be back home. I never forgot that. That was probably 40 years ago.
Wow.
Now, it was just something very powerful about that. And we were already really close because we talked about everything. And, you know, if I ever got in a situation, I could always go to her. And, you know, she always took me with her wherever she went. You know, she taught me a lot about life and how to talk to people, how to treat people. And, you know, that was her whole thing, loving people and taking care of community. And she just instilled that in me. And that's what I do. That's what I do now is just look out for people and try to help people along their journey and their path. So, you know, she passed away a few years back, and it was probably, no, it was the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with. And um, another, the other people, other women that have impacted my life. Of course, my daughter. My daughter, she lives in Atlanta. She's a therapist. We talk a lot. She helps me a lot. She teaches. She's very smart. She knows a lot about life, and she knows a lot about by being a therapist. She knows a lot about being a therapist and helping me in that way. I need all the help I can get. You feel me? And and also, I got to tell you, really, the being married to Misty, this is my second marriage. First marriage I was in, horrible ending. I met Misty, right? And Misty probably has, outside of my mom and my daughter, she's probably, now of course I love her, but the impact that she had on me, the way she changed me, the way she helped me to see things differently and to move differently. You know what I mean when I say that.
Mm-hmm.
The way in my interactions with people, she's just, you know, she's a very special person. And a lot of people, when I first met her, I wasn't really feeling her. And I'm just being honest. I'm not saying something that she doesn't know, because I wasn't really into the whole light skinned chick with long hair thing. That wasn't for me. But my little crazy self almost missed out on something very special because
Yes,
of
you
my prejudging and my
right.
little idiosyncrasies. Because once I got to know her, and this is one of the things that I wish more people would understand, get to know the person and stop getting caught up on looks. And, you know, you single guys watching this, you want a girl that look like Beyonce and Rihanna and all of that. You're missing out on something very special because you're hung up on looks. Because the things that's going to sustain you and keep you together and to move forward is inside.
Right.
I didn't
Wow.
know that.
And you
But
said
once I
something
got to know her,
significant there.
yeah, once I got to know her, and like Misty's is my best friend. And I'm not just saying that like, just, you know, that's my wife, that's my best. No, like really. Because when we first met, that's one thing we always did is talk. We always talk. And we do that now. Sometimes we're up at 1, sometimes 2 in the morning. We'll just be laughing and talking.
And
And like
that's
if
such a
neither one of us,
beautiful thing.
like if
Such
we
a
don't have,
beautiful.
like if she don't have an early appointment, like we'll just be talking.
And do you know
We'll
how
just,
many married people can't lay in the bed and just talk? You know, so
well,
many married people they can't, they don't communicate well within the marriage.
well,
So
you have to learn how. A lot of people don't know how, of no fault of their own. This is not something that's taught in school, and it
right.
needs to be. But that I talked about that earlier, keeping that bridge of communication open between the father and the daughter, and it's also very important with like I have 3 sisters, no brothers. We talk. My wife and I talk. My daughter and I talk. Some of the ladies at church, we talk. Because I think that's my gift, maybe, but that line of communication has to be open.
It does.
And for the women who are watching this, learn how to communicate, learn how to create the atmosphere so that the man feels comfortable talking to you. Here's something that I want to share that a lot of women don't know this. This is going to be the tip. A lot of guys probably going to be mad at me, but I don't care.
Okay, tell it, Eric. Tell it.
Inside of every man, there's a 10-year-old little boy who's looking for somebody to give his heart to.
Yep.
And if he finds somebody to give his heart to, it don't matter how she looks. I'm telling you. That is the one thing that Misty and I developed early on. The very first day that I met her, for some reason, I don't know, it was like I knew that she would never hurt me. I don't know how I knew that. I don't know how it just came. It must have been God speaking to me because it happened. And she has never, I knew that I could tell her anything about my past, all the crazy, dumb, retarded, stupid stuff that I've said and done throughout the years. We talk about it. And I share that with her. She doesn't judge me. She doesn't bring it up. And she knows how to take care of me emotionally. That's a good way to put it.
Right.
If whoever's watching it, if a man ever confides in anything, never bring it back up in a negative way. Because that is for a man, that is the biggest violation of trust there is. Because a man is not gonna, let me say this way. There's something else I learned working with married couples. Men lead physically. Women lead emotionally. Women are more emotionally open and physically closed.
Right.
Men are more physically open and emotionally closed. So the mistake that a lot of women make, they think if a guy has sex with her, she thinks he loves her.
Right.
That is the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he lay in bed with you and tell you about his mama and his grandmama,
He loves
then you win. So
Yeah.
just using a little, if I could use a little grown folks language here, I'll use the 7th grade biology terms. For men, you could have sex before you get hurt. Women are the opposite.
Right.
She's going to give you a heart first. See, we get them crossed up. And women are in a situation where they think that they have him, but you really don't have him. You just have sex.
Right. And I think a lot of women get that confused. Some of the women that I have talked to is, I tell them, you just because you're emotionally attached to him doesn't mean that he's yours. Sometimes women, because we are emotional creatures and we are nurturers by nature, once we get physically intertwined with someone, having sex, then we think, oh, he loves me. No, you think he loves you but if you don't have his mind, one of the things people used to, I won't tell my life, but in college, I did not lose my virginity at a young age. So I was much, much, much older. And, people used to always say, but you're always talking to guys. I say, because y'all sleeping with them, I don't have to do that. Right. They need somebody to talk to. Yes. They needed somebody to communicate with. Yes. They can get all that from you. They don't need that from me.
Yes.
And I'm intelligent. I can help them.
You can have the conversation.
I was financially savvy in college. So if they had some stuff going on with their business or their finances or their bank account, this, that, and the other, they sleeping with you and they getting all their knowledge and conversation from me. Right. And I get the same thing from them that you get.
Right.
But they don't want to talk about that. But Eric, We only have 2 minutes left. The
We got
timer is
2 minutes
counting.
left.
Yeah,
Did
Instagram is
somebody
counting
post a
it down.
question? Anybody got a question?
No, I didn't see any
Misty,
questions.
you got a question?
I didn't see any questions in the question box,
Misty
but
said she doesn't have any question.
well, we don't have time to answer the question because they're going to cut us off. But thank you so much to all of you guys who have tuned in. We greatly, greatly appreciate you. This has been an amazing conversation, Eric. Thank you so much for your time.
Anytime. We
I
need to come
realize.
back. We need to come back on the one about the women and how all of this murdering
Unfortunately,
black people
you know
is
what? We
affecting.
can do that on the 30th. I don't have
Yeah,
anybody for the 30th, so
we
we'll
could do
look at
that.
some
That's
dates
something
and
that
get
I
that
really
taken
want
care of.
to. It really needs to be addressed.
It
But thank you
does.
for doing this. Shout out to you. Shout out to your husband. Shout out to your kids. Y'all, you guys are awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate you. You guys, this has been I Am Woman, the conversation. Let's talk. Thank you, Eric, so much. And I will see you guys on Thursday with my next guest. So, see you guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.